Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the June edition of the Arcane Games and Events Open Series, where we are watching Chris Iaali take his stride of reprisal through his draft pod. Sorry, I'm recently become a father, and these things are coming to me faster than
It's genetic at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to continue on. It's going to be Chris Iaali versus Emanuel. I'm not sure what his last name is, but I'm sure it's amazing. Who is the other Zen in the pod? We're seeing
2 Zens in the pod.
and
up
here
against
they
each
go.
other.
Yeah, clearly
Head-to-head.
both are doing well,
Yep.
which is no surprise given that there were so many good Ninja cards
Sure.
available in that draft.
Yeah. One of the things to note is that Chris was sitting to the left of Emanuel, which means that in the wheel, he was getting first pick for 2 packs and second pick for 1 pack. So slight edge just for that. But overall, should be a pretty even split of cards.
And let's see how it's going to play out between these two players. Emanuel Zayas is his last name. I wonder if he's a doctor. I wonder if he is Dr. Zayas.
I wonder if maybe his name starts with a Z, and that's why he chose Zen.
Yeah, quite possible indeed.
The Z allegiance.
Yeah, Z Allegiance. Chris, who has no Z's in his name, is poring over his opponent's deck list. Probably one... I guess the thing that you want to note is how many of those really nasty red combo cards does my opponent have?
Yeah.
How many Transcend cards do they have? And finding out when your windows to go full steam ahead are going to be. The main difference between Emanuel and Chris's list is those combo cards. Emanuel ended up with 2 red Pouncing Chi, 2 red Breed Anger, 2 red Aspect of Tiger Body, which is pretty rare considering that is in the rare slot. We'll see how it influences this match.
Yeah.
Curiously enough, neither you weren't in the booth at the time, but I think you probably saw Chris's his pack 1 pick 1 when he deviated away from that red Chi Unleashed.
Yep.
Did you see that?
I did.
Curiously enough, I don't think it ended up in Emanuel's list. So somebody else was flirting with the idea of Zen.
Yeah,
and
maybe a
ended
hate
up
pick
opting out.
or an opt-out.
Yeah, which I actually think it might have been Marcus Brown. I was talking to him a little bit
Yep.
early.
He did have actually some cards of every class.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he wasn't super satisfied with his options and tried to stay open for a while, eventually settled, I want to say on new. I believe new. But let's not set that in stone until we see him on camera if that happens.
Absolutely. The players are shuffling up here, and we are about to get underway. Let's take a look at the equipment suites. Emanuel has 2 cloaked equipment, where Chris has 2 as well. We know what Chris's options are. He has the Sky Body Kikoi and the Kimono as his options for chest, and we know the headpiece is just a...
Yeah, and on Emanuel's side, Chris and us know that the 2 cloaked would be the Skyhold Kikoi and the Skywalker Kikoi.
Okay.
So that is known information, so we can play knowing that.
And these open deck lists do add a really interesting dynamic to this set because of the cloaked mechanic.
Right. It kind of isn't cloaked, as long as you can remember, because Chris won't be sitting there with the deck list, so if he forgot to mentally write that down, he may forget what those equipment are.
I think we saw a chuckle between Chris and John in the last round when John hit him with a fact-finding mission. I think they were probably laughing about the fact that that is not really a relevant card.
Well, he did choose the chest over the arsenal, which shows that he may have forgotten. Or actually, it turns out that I believe Chris has 2 chess piece options. So he may have been really curious about which one he brought and choosing that over the arsenal, knowing the arsenal was probably some power card. Pretty confident in that.
Yeah, right, you are. With 4 copies of Pouncing Chi, it's pretty safe to assume that Chris is arsenaling power cards all the time. Or those 0 for 4s that have no condition whatsoever.
Yeah.
Both those emissaries in his deck last game doing immense work against John Zapata.
Yep.
But here we go. It's a Zen on Zen showdown. 2 hyper-powered Zen draft decks about to duke it out in round 2 of the June AGE Open.
Shuffling it up. Looks like didn't see who won the die roll. We'll see that in just a moment.
And it's curious. Emanuel is starting off with a Transcend card in hand. Is that 2 Transcend cards I see? Is that a Drop in the Ocean?
Yeah,
it is.
It is.
Drop in the Ocean and Homage to Ancestors.
So Chris
this is
going
really interesting.
first. Looks like he may have lost the die roll on that. Pitches a red and a blue, over pitching for the Blanche.
And this could be really interesting for Emanuel because he has the opportunity to transcend turn 0 and block a little bit if he wants. This is going to be kind of a tough decision for him because if he does elect to transcend, he could activate Zen, but then he would end up with a Crouching Tiger in hand and basically IP himself.
Yeah, I don't know how important. I imagine the transcend is something you want to do with a 5-card hand if possible, but unfortunate not having enough blocking cards right now. The Blanche really threatening on this turn 1 here.
Don't forget that drop in the ocean will give that attack -1, and
True.
if he's really concerned about the text on Blanche, he could always throw one of his pieces of equipment at it.
True.
Obviously not something you want to do on turn 0, but if
Looks
you...
like he's hovering it.
Yeah, he is. And I think that's understandable because the text on Blanche is potentially the most debilitating to Zen because he relies so heavily on Harmony of the Hunt and Tiger Form Incantation to create his tigers, and you need to have pitched a blue.
Yeah.
Gonna give it -1.
Yep, there's the drop in the ocean, just like you predicted, and the homage to ancestors gaining a life, transcending both of those, so he'll start his turn with 2 chi in hand, unless he decides to dump one right here into nothing,
Which,
is
yeah, like we said, that's
an option.
probably not likely just because that Crouching Tiger is such a liability, drawing back up to 4.
But IPing yourself, oh, and there's another transcend card.
So that is all of the Transcend cards
Rough
in Emanuel's
hand
deck
from Emanuel.
already. Ouch.
Yeah.
So he has the option to Tiger Form Incantation. That being said, this turn is not as bad as it originally seems, right? Because he's already gotten that Transcend off, he's going to be able to find one of those extremely powerful combo cards in
It's a
his
very
deck.
good point. And
So-
he can use the other one for resources, so he's not as stuck as it seemed.
Right, you are. And let's take a look at what he will be finding. It's likely going to be one of those 2 red pouncing cheese that are in his deck. 0 for 4 is nothing to shake your hat at. The other options he has are Breed Anger, Aspect of Tiger Body, and yeah, no. Oh, he does have a yellow and a blue Chi Unleashed, so it's entirely possible that that's what he goes to find. Turn a skimpy yellow card into a 2 for 6.
Well, it looks like he's starting the turn off swinging with the Tiger Taming Kakara, pitching one of his 2 Chis, 1 floating, 2 coming in.
Which is really interesting because this could be problematic because he is holding on to a Tiger Form Incantation, which is a non-attack action.
True.
And would close the chain and nerf his Tiger. Maybe he's thinking that is A-okay because he's going to be able to activate Zen.
That's a good point there. So looks like he had the same exact thought. He goes for the Zen activation, searching his deck for one of those cards that you just mentioned, possibly something else. And he's going to make that Tiger in his hand without breaking the chain. Very important if he wants to get the value out of his Kakara.
Oh, he's holding it a little bit too low for us to be able to see what he's thinking. As he flips through his deck, I feel like it's going to be that yellow Chi Unleashed or a red Pouncing Chi. Surely. That's going to be the most efficient way to push damage here.
Taking a look at Chris Iaali's hand. I saw a Tiger Form Incantation.
Biting Breeze.
And they're being very secretive with those hands.
And here comes the yellow Chi Unleashed.
Okay.
Not bad at all, especially on a turn where you're kind of resource flooded.
Yeah. I like the play of not pulling your absolute most powerful card out of the deck. Do something powerful, and then leave the rest of the deck so to have more power later on.
Yeah.
Coming in with that Tiger that he just made off of the Zen ability, coming in for 1, thanks to the ability of the Tiger Taming Kakara. And it looks like Chris snaps, no blocks, and we see 6 coming in with the Key Unleashed.
Which means that Homage to Ancestors is heading to Arsenal. Which, if he does want to transcend with it, could be a little bit clunky later on. I think there's going to be a world where he just wants to throw it out, gain the 1 life, and move on. It is curious that he didn't pitch it right there to play the Tiger Form Incantation rather than pitching that to the Chi Unleash, because then you would have snuck in 2 more points of damage. Obviously ending without an Arsenal, but I would argue that maybe that's a dead card in Arsenal anyway.
Yeah, it depends on how he built his deck. We'll have to see if that becomes relevant later on. 11 to 21, big life lead on Emanuel's side as Chris comes in attacking with something.
That's a
Can't see
flex
things.
clause,
It's a
if I'm
flex
not
clause,
mistaken.
okay.
Breakpoint offered here, and a tiger created on the back end.
Yep, there it is. Flex clause.
This
Goes
hurts
to the 1
Emanuel.
for 4.
Yeah, this hurts Emanuel even more because he's given up one of his precious pieces of equipment. And in the Zen matchup, these are the moments that you really want to be donating equipment. Just get one extra block on these breakpoints that are going to create tigers and push even more damage.
Yeah. With the life lead that Emanuel has, obviously it's always value, value, value across the course of the game. So if you can prevent that on hit, that's very useful.
This is very interesting here. Oh, he's going to throw another 2-block in there. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
The yellow Untamed.
Which is a pretty lackluster card.
Sure.
Makes sense that it's being devoted to the block here. Probably going to get more value, just as much, if not more value, on the blocking side of things.
And he decides to put that.
It'll be a Pouncing Chi going
Yeah,
to the bottom of the deck,
pouncing.
which makes a lot of sense because that is one of the huge power cards in this deck. Unfortunately, it was forced to block on turn 0, which is not what you want to be doing with it. You want to be attacking with it. So
Chris Iaali now swinging with the Biting Breeze. When it hits, can create a Crouching Tiger. Another on hit that Emanuel may want to prevent.
he does
Does not.
though. Goes ahead and takes the tiger. This is looking like a monster of a turn from Chris. And like we said previously, Zen just wants to say 4 over and over and over again. And Chris has already said it twice this turn. Technically, Untamed is saying 5, just divvied up a little bit.
And with that Tiger we already know about in hand, he can threaten one more at the end of the chain.
This is A-okay for him. Emanuel sporting a Companion of the Claw, which, as we discussed during the draft, kind of serves as a bit of a clunker in terms of Zen's ideal
Ooh, look at
resource
this.
curves.
Harmony Hunt ending the chain, 3 damage, and another Tiger in hand that he'll be able to arsenal. Very efficient use. I was kind of sitting here wondering if Chris was just going to end the turn with 1 floating, but no. He has the last attack to eke that value out.
Chris Iaali, my team captain, no way is he leaving a resource floating. That's not the way. That's not his style. Efficiency and clean play. That's the Chris Iaali way.
Moves to end. Tiger and Arsenal, 11 to 10.
And honestly, Tiger and Arsenal is pretty solid for Zen a lot of the time. Chris's deck is really, really streamlined and well crafted. But in some of these lackluster Zen decks, namely from being like a 1 of 3 Zen, it can be vital to have a Tiger on demand. That's why Stride of Reprisal is best in slot. So arsenaling one, it ain't that bad. Here comes a blue Biting Breeze from Emanuel Zayas, maybe hoping to transcend with that homage to ancestors in Arsenal.
My thought as well.
It's curious, though, because I believe those are 2 reds left in his hand.
He may choose to transcend and then just use that as resources. He would be able to play both of those cards.
And this is kind of nice here for Chris, flipping that Aqua Seeing Shell. Going to block out a relevant on-hit from the Biting Breeze. Chris doesn't know that Emanuel is just going to be able to create that Tiger out of Arsenal. If he does intend to pitch to Zen, the Companion of the Claw will do it on its own, though.
So then homage to ancestors being played, gaining 1 life, transcending. Chi goes to hand.
And here, like you said, it's going to be just vital as a blue pitch. Forget the Zen text. We just need to fuel the rest of this turn.
That's pretty incredible that you can arsenal a Chi card and then use that to pitch. That's a very, very valuable thing to bank.
Here comes the Companion of the Claw. We're going to create a Tiger. Goes to hand. We don't have the... It's kind of... It's curious that he orders it this way. I guess it's fine because he just uses that last resource to go Tiger Form Incantation. There was another line where you hold on to the Companion of the Claw, throw it into Arsenal.
And then Tiger Form into Kakara, right?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's a more efficient use of resources, but This does allow Emanuel to push a ridiculous amount of damage when Chris
Yep.
is already incredibly low.
Choosing to push the tempo rather than bank the value. Oh, and he's still...
And get this, Chris gets to block with that Aqua Seeing Shell twice because Emanuel
Wow, he
closed
broke
the chain.
chain.
And Aqua Seeing Shell doesn't have Blade Break. It
Yep.
dies at the start of your turn.
Very good use of that equipment there by Chris. Catching the breaking of the chain.
Yeah, really smartly played. Chris knows what these cards say. There's no question about that.
Biting Breeze. 0 for 3. Tiger on hit.
That's right. In the hand of Chris, we've got one of those coveted Pouncing Cheese, one of the power cards in his deck. Let's see if Emanuel is afraid of the Tiger or not.
Yeah, and he does have the Tiger in Arsenal, correct? So
That's correct.
could play into whether Emanuel chooses to block, decides to block. The Kakara comes in for 2.
Emanuel's hand is a little bit lackluster here.
Yeah, seeing him block with a red Breed Anger. Usually more of a power card, but perhaps seeing the texture of his hand deciding more value blocking with that.
Yeah.
Especially considering the on-hit.
Yeah, and if he did, it was 2 turns ago now that Chris put that Crouching Tiger in Arsenal, so maybe Emanuel has forgotten.
Great timing
that
for
it's
the
there.
Untamed now that Tiger is getting +2.
And Chris is going to empty this entire hand out here because here comes Tiger from Arsenal after this for 2, and then what do you know? Another 4.
Wow.
Zen's favorite number.
Huge turn from Chris, pulling the tempo.
So even though Chris is a little bit down on life totals here, he's ripping all of the cards out of Emanuel's hand.
Yeah.
His offensive potential is dwindling right before his eyes. And on top of it, there's another 4 on the back of this Tiger.
Yeah, Emanuel just trying to get the most value out of his hand as he can. It looks like you don't normally see Zen's block, but in this case, he thinks it was the best use of his cards.
And maybe Chris will draw up a bit of a dud of a hand. 4 cards is certainly less scary than 1, but Chris kind of has a get-out-of-jail-free card in the Stride of Reprisal. That is, if Emanuel offers anything offensive on his turn or just decides to block completely out.
Emanuel in a tough position, thinking about whether he wants to commit this final card to block and just time walk himself and take some damage, or send a weak little flick back at Chris. He can't do much. We know that his arsenal is a 2 for 4, and the card in his hand, is that a blue or a yellow? Or maybe even a red?
In Emanuel's hand?
Looks like he's blocking with it. He may just be fighting inside himself about how horrible this feels.
Yeah.
Choosing the block 3 over the attack for 3 in this spot. But he's not happy. You can see a little grimace on his face.
Yeah, the fact that he's already dedicated 3 cards to block, it makes sense that he just throws the rest of the hand out. Because the difference between a Zen hand of 4 cards and a Zen hand of 3 cards, it's a lot.
Yep.
So Chris just gets the green light to go again. Looks like it's actually not that great of a hand,
Yeah, it's
though.
a blue-heavy hand here.
And he has no way to generate a Tiger, so maybe a super heads-up play from Emanuel not attacking at all, because that would have allowed Chris to see what's in his hand, block with a Stride of Reprisal, and completely fix this. Very blue-heavy indeed. The saving grace for Chris here is that he's going to be able to throw that blue Untamed into a droplet and basically turn that Water Mystic attack from blue to red in terms of rate.
Yeah. Those cards are very flexible, powerful cards in this set. We can see.
It looks like Emanuel is pretty blue flooded as well. I see 3 blue cards and 1 red. So this is not the hand that Emanuel wanted to see after Chris took his tempo. Ideally, he was going to have all gas. He could devote as little as possible to the block and then come back with a haymaker of his own.
Silver lining, he does have expensive cards in his hand. That at least in his arsenal, it costs 2 resources. His weapon costs 2, so he can utilize a lot of resources. 9 is too many, and we can see him blocking here. because he agrees with that.
I think Emanuel's arsenal ended up being a tiger, didn't it?
Was it a tiger,
I think
not
so,
the
because
companion?
Because he had the line that went, I think he played the Companion of the Claw and
excuse me.
the Incantation.
Okay.
Which is what allowed Chris to
I
block
see.
with the Seeing Shell
Okay.
twice. So maybe that's a good. It's not an ideal situation given his hand. He would love to hold on to that Pouncing Chi in order to make really good use of that Tiger. But in this case, it's probably just going to be, at most, Kakara, Tiger, Breed Anger, probably Arsenal. Or no, Breed Anger creates it and banished, huh? So he can't even Arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though Chris drew a bit of a brick of a hand, he's Emanuel's just not going to be able to send too much back at him.
Decides to take. There it is. 5
Down we go to
apiece.
5.
And there's the droplet.
For 4.
Boosted up by the Untamed Blue, coming in for 4.
Now, normally in this spot, you're asking yourself, is that last card a path well traveled? But because we have open deck lists, Emanuel probably knows that that is not the case. Because these cards just get so ridiculous if they are powered up by one of those Transcend cards.
I'll go to Arsenal.
Yep.
Chris wishing he had a tiger. Losing 2 potential value there.
You know, he did get 2 cards out of his opponent Zen's hand. He's probably feeling pretty confident that he's going to still get that value out of Pouncing Chi, especially when he's sitting on the Stride of Reprisal, still to this moment.
So now Emanuel's attacking with his weapon, the Kakara, pitching the Companion of the Claw.
Flickered off.
Chris Iaali blocking with Biting Breeze Blue.
Probably has a redundant blue in hand, says, might as well donate this to the defense. I really wonder if we're going to see that Stride of Reprisal here, because I'm not seeing a guaranteed Tiger generator yet.
Does he have any
Oh.
Tiger pumps is the other question.
He
He has the Pouncing Chi.
He's not showing them, and we know there's a Pouncing Chi in Arsenal. He does have
So
a
there
Tiger
he
Form
reaches for it
Incantation
now.
on the left.
Preferring to save it for a potential on-hit, I imagine, rather than the vanilla, and see what the final attack from Emanuel is.
And Emanuel is presenting the most amazing on-hit in Flesh and Blood, Death.
Death.
Chris in the tank, thinking about whether or not we're going to donate it. He has to donate something, so it might as well be something that makes his turn phenomenal.
Looks like he's deciding whether he prefers to have 4 life or 4 cards.
He still, don't forget, he still has ostensibly the Kikoi in his chest slot. So he could block out a little more of this if he
Chris
wants to.
goes to 1. This is the turn now to turn the tempo and strip as many cards from Emanuel as possible. Being the Zen on the offensive when life totals are low is exactly the position you want to be in. As Chris starts the turn with a blue Tiger Form Incantation, creating a tiger in his hand. So now he has 2.
It's entirely possible that he even not only strips the hand from Emanuel, but also just outright kills him with what we've seen so far. We've got 2 Pouncing Keys at the ready.
One of the things I noticed in the last game, and it looks like he's setting it up again, is a really wide turn of 2 attacks. There's something very, very difficult about this because you can't get your full card's value blocking a 2 attack. And so if you can go very wide and, we see next attack is probably going to be a tiger for 2, it presents a very difficult puzzle, a blocking puzzle for Emanuel that it's not going to be possible for him to extract all the value from his cards that he would like to.
It is curious that Chris decides to sequence this way, because he could have gone Tiger Form Incantation, then go Tiger, then Pouncing Chi, and then you present 2 1-power attacks rather than 1 2-power attacks, exacerbating that very issue that you were just describing. I think Chris might be valuing arsenaling. No, he's not going to arsenal the Tiger because he's going to deploy both of them for the Pouncing Cheese. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's an argument that that was a bit of a miss-sequence there from Chris.
Sure. We'll see how he decides to play. I think he has a Pouncing Chi in his hand.
And also an Arsenal, if I'm
Wow.
not mistaken.
Okay, so
This is why I think it
I
might
see.
be a bit of a mistake on sequencing, if he has both. Yeah.
Untamed blocking.
Yeah.
Yep. So lots of 2 power attacks coming across.
And then we know probably ending up with another 4. And while it won't kill Emanuel, it certainly gives Chris the green light to try to do it again next turn. And you definitely don't want to be on the back foot in a Zen mirror.
Emanuel deciding to take 2, dropping down to 2 life. Chris, 2 cards in hand, pauses for a think.
0.
Sending his last tiger for 0.
So yeah, this is what I'm talking about here. We could
3.
have had a situation where both those tigers came in for 1, probably forced Emanuel to take those 1s
Yep.
because he just loses too much value on blocking them.
Block 3. Okay.
Okay, and Chris has all but stripped the hand from Emanuel, which means that at best, here comes a Kakara. And I think Chris is feeling pretty comfortable about blocking
Yep.
them out.
And for those of you at home who have heard the word tempo but don't fully understand it, this is the definition of it. Chris having the tempo at the moment. Emanuel only able to play 1 card out, not even activate the combo on it. It's Pouncing Chi coming in for 3.
Yeah, and Chris fine to donate a piece of equipment and a powerful card, I will say, to the block. Let's see what he's got on the clapback.
The red Tiger Form incantation.
Great start. Because all of a sudden, this measly tiger that has been created out of thin air is coming in for a heck of a lot more than
Yep.
0.
4 after the weapon swing, which is a breakpoint, and that could demand 2 cards from Emanuel.
And we know that Chris is also holding on to one of those coveted emissary cards, which will just come in for 4.
Yeah.
Zen is doing his thing, saying 4 over and over and over again.
The breakpoints are what make the tempo so deadly at the end of the game.
Right, you are. Because no longer can I just say, oh, well, I'll just get max value on my card, block 3, and take the remaining 1 because I can. All of a sudden, you're at 1.
Yep.
That's death.
Yep. Now the Tiger's coming in. 4.
And so this is the moment that is so sad to see because Emanuel is going to be turning the gears, trying to figure out what is the best possible thing I can do with a 2-card hand. I'm just going to donate 1 of these to block. I'm going to go down to 1, and surely I get a chance. And then Chris is going to say, how about another 4?
Yeah. Yeah, this could actually just... It's going to strip the whole hand and deal a point of damage. Minimum.
Absolutely.
And then what Chris had this turn was a 3-card hand. Next, he's going to have a 4-card hand. So looks like Emanuel may be on the ropes. His only shot here would be for a big old brick from Chris next turn.
Yeah,
A big one.
based on what we know about Chris's deck, that is very unlikely.
Yeah, he built a very efficient deck.
I mean, granted, we have seen 2 of the Biting Breezes, I think, at least 1 of the Untames. We've seen both of the Emissaries, which are power cards. We've also seen the Blanche that was deployed on turn 0. So Chris might have to try to find a way to do this with his blues. Which
He has a Transcend card and a blue.
Yep, and
Good combination.
that'll probably be all she wrote.
Oh, decides instead to swing the weapon.
I think this makes sense because the 2 other cards in his hand are red.
Yeah.
And in order to actually activate Zen's ability, he would have to tap out.
That's a
no
good point.
resources. Yeah. So he's just going to let these reds do their work.
That's all you need.
Emanuel finding one of those early pitched cheese. Blue cheese, if you will.
Yep. That could actually
Sorry.
be the end of it. I see what you did there. Yeah, you'd like a blocking card.
Yeah. And
And
so
here
that's
he-
probably what Emanuel is going to go find.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be banished, so he can't.
True.
I'm not sure what the point of that is, but
Put you in a banish.
well, there we are.
Yeah, I won't be able to block.
There's your soundbite.
Okay.
And that's it. The
That last
chi
one
that
was just too
cannot
many
block
blues.
was not able to
Oh,
defend.
too many 4s.
Yeah.
Just needed 1 3.
What did I say? Zen wants to say 4. Zen wants to say 4. That's the name of the game. Chris Iaali taking it down once again. Let's get a view of our winner as he unclips his microphone.
Taking down a Zen mirror going first is a tough thing to do. Chris playing that masterfully.
Yeah, right you are. Chris showcasing what a really good Zen draft deck looks like. Let's take a look at his pool one more time. In case you don't want to take our word for it, this is what a 2-0 draft Zen deck looks like. One of the things I really want to highlight here is the lack of companion of the claws. I think that is a bit of a bait card when it comes to Zen because it doesn't fit into the really clean resource structure that Zen wants to utilize. You want to go a series of 1 costs, or you want to go 1 cost, Kakara, 0 cost.
Yeah.
And that's what a clean Zen turn looks like. A 2 cost messes with all of that.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it seems like on paper that the Tiger creation, the 4 breakpoint, it looks like all the things you'd want, but that 2 cost is just far too expensive to be able to make efficient use of it, and he passed on all of them.
Yeah, right you are.
And we saw them get clogged up in Emanuel's list when he had those turns. He just wasn't able to play them super efficiently.
Right you are. And since we've been saying 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 over and over and over again, let's take a look at some of these nasty 4s that Chris is showcasing. Flex Claws. Why is this one so much better than something that comes in for 3?
Well, you want it to hit, and cards in this game, they block for 2 or they block for 3. And this one, well, you can block it with 1 card. The other one you can't.
Right you are. And so we're demanding really important pieces of equipment and also threatening a really intense on-hit.
Yeah.
So Chris, the king of 4s, will be joining us for an interview in just a moment. So don't go anywhere, and you'll hear from the man himself.
Welcome back, folks. We're joined here with Chris Iaali at the 2-win mid-round interview, here to ask him a little bit about his deck and how the draft went. What were your thoughts coming out of the draft, sitting with your deck list here? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, during pack 1, I was a little worried because on the wheel it was signaled that there were probably 2 other Zen players, so 3 total. And so pack 1 I was a little worried, but by mid pack 2 and definitely in pack 3 I felt a lot better about the deck, and things were starting to come together, and I think the deck came out pretty well.
Sure. When did you pick those signals up? You say that you noticed in the wheel. I'm assuming that just means you looked at how many ninja cards were available, and we're seeing some packs didn't have 2 or 3.
So my pack 1 pick 1, I had an interesting choice between one of the emissaries, I think it was the Wind, and then Key Unleashed, red, and then obviously there were 2 ninja cards in the pack also. And so on that wheel, I ended up picking the emissary. And on that wheel, the red Key Unleash was missing, and the other red ninja card was missing. So that means that 2 people picked one of the ninja cards.
Right.
Right. So that means if I'm in ninja in that spot, then I'm the 3rd ninja. And I was just hoping that because I ended up going into ninja on pack 2 or in pick 2, and I was just hoping that I was able to cut off enough ninja cards where the players on my left that were drafting ninja would like pivot out, and I think that's what happened. I think Jake was the player who started on ninja but ended up switching to Enigma, and so it worked out.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw Marcus also waffled a little bit between actually all 3 classes, ended up settling on Assassin.
Okay.
But
Yeah, Marcus
had a few
right on my left.
Yep, had a few ninja cards as well. Yeah, I noticed you picked up a lot of power cards. We were talking about how important the 4 power, the 0 for 4s and the 1 for 4s are.
Right.
We've got Flex Claws in here. You've got 2 of those. You've got 2 Untamed. How do you feel about the power cards that you got, and which ones you prefer in your lists?
Yeah, I definitely like Flex Claws a lot more than Untamed, but Untamed gets a lot better when I have Strider Reprisal in my deck to guarantee that I'm going to have that Crouching Tiger to get the +1 value out of. Because like your general game plan with Zen, like your typical turn pattern is going to be like 1 cost, pitch a blue, play a 1 cost that sometimes cares about a blue that you're pitching, or it's going to be one of these 1 for 4s, and then you use the 2 remaining pitch to attack with your Kakara, and then obviously like Tiger afterwards, and then hopefully end on a 0 for 4. So that's why I prefer the. That's why I picked the Emissary over the Key Unleashed.
Okay.
Just because the Key Unleashed doesn't. It's a little awkward sometimes with the cost curve.
Yeah,
of,
the two
like, being
costs
able
are
to
tough
attack
to
with
play. Even though it comes in for so much damage, it's
being
not
able
a
to
0 or a 1.
attack with the Kakara and Key Unleashed in the same turn is kind of hard. So.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other thoughts on your list? Maybe cards that you missed that you wish had wheeled or anything along those lines?
Yeah, there were some interesting picks that I made on, like the Transcend cards. I wanted the Path Well Traveled for the go again because I picked a Droplet pretty early. But I don't remember what I picked over the Path Well Traveled specifically. I missed out on getting the gloves equipment, the arms equipment. And like I was agonizing over that pick for a little bit. I ended up picking 2 chess pieces because I knew it would be open deck list, and I wanted my opponent to have to guess. But
That is a heads-up play right there.
But the kimono's only really good if I'm playing that combo
Yeah.
Zen style, and I didn't have very many combo cards early in the draft. I got most of my pouncing keys in the later picks.
We actually saw the choice to bring 2 chess pieces draw the fact-finding mission over to your chess piece instead of your arsenal. So you got to hide some arsenal information with that.
For sure.
Very cool play there. And I have one other thought. While you were talking about the Transcend cards, you ended up picking a Drop in the Ocean, which, as my understanding, is not a very good card in Zen. What were your thoughts behind picking this card up when you did?
Yeah, if I remember right, this is when I was starting to get a signal that maybe maybe my seat wasn't the Zen seat. And then I had the option between a drop and I think it was like a Big Blue Sky or something, like a blue defense reaction that also blocked 2. And obviously, like, Big Blue Sky would be better, but maybe there was a chance I would be able to pivot into Enigma if things kept not going Zen's way.
Okay.
But because I knew that Travis, who was passing to me, he sent the signal on pack 1 or pick 1 that he was going to be assassin. Like there was an assassin missing in pick 2 for me, and then so I thought I was in a good seat, and then like I said in pack 1, I was like kind of questioning whether or not I wanted to be one of 3 Zens, but I stuck with it.
Awesome. Well, seems like your deck turned out fantastic. You're 2-0 right now, looking good. Do you have any other thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I don't know who the other 2-0 player is. So, I think the deck's solid. Hopefully I get to go second this next game.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't win your die rolls there, but you made it work, even in the Zen Mirror, which is tough to do going first.
Got a little lucky with him missing out on some blues and some awkward hands where he had to pitch inefficiently to play his Key Unleashed and stuff, so it worked out.
All right, well, thank you for joining us in the booth, and we'll see everyone in just a minute. When we take this break, we'll join you for the final round of round 1 of the draft, AGE June Open.